Good to be with you guys again. Feels like a long time since we played football. A lot happens in a normal day in a Division I football program, and so a bye week I think has been successful to this point, where self-analysis was part of the plan, healing our team part of the plan, preparation for our opponent part of the plan, practicing part of the plan. I think we hit all those at about the right level. So going into this week, we'll get an extra day of practice in starting today, which would be a normal Tuesday. And so I like where we are in terms of how we use the bye week. And the opportunity that lies ahead for Auburn is great for our team. It's good for our program and the next test. So we're looking forward to it. With that, I'll take questions.
In terms of kind of turning the page to Auburn and all that, 2-game sample size. One, just kind of a demolition of Alabama A&M, and then Saturday against Cal. Just kind of a turnover marred loss for them. What are you kind of seeing out of them at this point?
And a capable, talented football team that's well coached and led really well. Coach Freeze I've known for a while. Our last head-to-head was I was at the University of Virginia, and he brought a Liberty team into UVA. So we've had some interaction, but watching from afar. Talented, again, well-coached and capable. The game on Saturday, really the difference was the turnover margin and low-scoring game. And without the turnovers, certainly more scoring could have happened for Auburn. But give Cal credit for going on the road, making enough plays to win the game. And it's hard to do in that environment and on the road in college football. So really well played game right to the end, as it was the year before between Cal and Auburn, right to the very end. So it's turned into a good, I won't say rivalry, but a good matchup.
You just talked about everything last week being part of the plan, which I think is great. Has anything aside from the results not gone as part of the plan, or has everything pretty much been part of the plan?
No, there's certainly been things that we're adjusting to as we went. The inconsistency in the big plays that we're giving up defensively, didn't expect that many and that frequent. And so thought we were kind of past that. And it's manifest in two different ways in two different games from different personnel. So, chasing that down as fast as possible. I think the resiliency, optimism, and work ethic of the team has surprised me in a positive way. They're hungry and eager and hopeful and desperate and diligent and all those things and resilient. And that part has been really fun. You never quite know where that's going to be after an off season in the summer and you start and go through fall camp. And so I've really liked that part. The rest of it, in terms of depth and roster, that's playing out as we go. We're a little thinner than what I thought. Some injuries have occurred that have changed that also. So I thought we'd be a little deeper than we are at this stage. So that's probably off plan a hair. And the rest is, it feels like forging a football program is what it feels like.
Coach, you talked about what you saw at Auburn. I'm just curious to your thoughts on how you guys match up. I know you don't want to give up way too much, but just how do you think you guys match up?
Yeah, I think on paper there won't be anyone that would say a matchup is favorable for us. They probably would have said the same versus Arizona, and that's to be expected, right? When our program is functioning and playing the kind of football that I know we can and will, our collective will be the formidable part, not the individual matchups. And so, this week, racing to get the collective execution, the collective consistency, the collective complementary nature, offense, defense, special teams, all working at the same time to give us our best chance. And so that's our focus.
For sure. And then can you just talk about this offense and obviously been putting up some good numbers, just the progression you've seen, and obviously how Devin Dampier, how he's progressing as well?
Yeah, it is progressing week 1 to week 2. So week 1, I think, was a solid performance. But again, 2 of those scores in week 1 came defensively, and our offense didn't score the second half. And so that was the starting point. when you look at the second performance, gosh, pretty dynamic from beginning to end. And not only throwing, but running, Devin's ability to create, extend plays, but also his ability with designed running plays, in addition to throwing, catching, and handing the ball off, that became a more formidable collective to defend. And that was significantly different, and growth happened in that area from week 1 to week 2.
You mentioned that little thinner at this kind of point in the game than you probably thought you would be, and you did touch last time we talked about there were some injuries in the secondary. I suppose this isn't a specific injury specific injury question, but in terms of those secondary injuries, I mean, are things progressing as you would kind of hope over the bye week, or
progressing? Haven't progressed, and again, that's one of the areas that thinner, and one of the ways that you address that is players being able to back up multiple positions. And so when that happens, offensive line, that's pretty typical as well. And so if you have, a guard that can play center, then really you have a backup for 3 positions. If you have a guard that can play tackle, then same thing. So secondary-wise, we're having to move to that pretty quickly, of a corner being able to play safety, a nickel being able to play corner, etc., to get the depth we need.
And then in terms, I'm probably getting ahead of myself and all that. I don't know what Singletary's status is at this point. But I mean, if he does come back and he is healthy, is there an inclination to bring him back into the fold at center or keep rolling with Agnello at that spot?
Well, if Singletary were to return, it would be to have him play center and then Agnello move, if that were to happen.
Yeah, and they were one of the best rushing teams in the country last year. I think they were top 25. They were really a force when they got going. They have Hunter, 27, that running back, and all that, and then Thorne as well can run it pretty well as well. Just in terms of going up against a really dynamic Russian attack, I mean, what is kind of the focus on that end?
Yeah, it's a challenge. So Coach Howell, our defensive coordinator, again was coaching at Vanderbilt last year, played against Auburn in the same personnel a year ago. So it's helpful to have that insight. We're well aware of the running ability, the quarterback's ability to extend plays. He used his legs quite a bit in that game, and so that alone makes it very challenging. And then there's receivers on the outside and in the slot that can catch the ball, besides a really good tight end. And so again, matchups and threats kind of exist everywhere with a really formidable offensive front. Again, the collective effort and collective execution of our football team and by units going to have to be at a really high level.
And then in terms of, you touched on a little bit there, but some very dynamic wide receivers, 8 and 5. Coleman's one of them. Just overall, after kind of, performance in the secondary against Arizona, what was kind of the message this week heading into against Auburn?
Well, the controllables are really our focus, and so the matchups aren't necessarily the biggest issue. The execution of assignments is really determining outcome, and so that's actually providing hope and optimism, because the controllables end up changing the outcome. And so it's not acknowledging the capability of the opponent in Arizona or Auburn, but man, there's so much work to do just on us playing within the scheme, within the assignment, within the technique, and doing so in a coordinated manner and doing it consistently. That's really where the difference is right now.
Bronco, where's your comfort level as far as playmakers offensively? Luke had a great game against Arizona, but as far as Devin being comfortable finding guys who can make plays, whether it's a dynamic play or a key reception in a key situation, what's your comfort level with the evolution of that?
Yeah, I still have to keep adding. And so the game that Luke had was just exceptional, really, really fun to watch. And the game Devin had, really fun to watch. And then there's other performers at running back, Trace Breckler at tight end, that are really doing a nice job. If you then say, okay, now whom else, right? That's the next part, adding 1, 2, or 3 others, and we have capable players there. But for them to emerge, that will make us a lot more balanced, a lot more difficult to defend, rather than being able to tilt toward a couple players. I'd rather have them to be spread thinner between 2, 3, 4, or 5 different players.
Coach, one of the things you talked about post-game was that the incorporation of some design plays to involve Devin in the run game was part of the game plan this past weekend. But you've also talked about protecting him because he's so important to your team. How do you balance that moving forward, and how much of it is the right amount?
Yeah, it's just that the right amount is enough to help our team win and keep Devin healthy. And that's our team changes significantly without Devin at quarterback, and so we'll err on the side of protection rather than risk. But he is capable with his legs, and it's much harder on the defense when the quarterback is established as a run threat. And so, yeah, we intend to travel that fine line the best we can, knowing it's only week 3 coming up.
Tevin Shaw had been kind of the guy at left tackle. We're seeing Owens, but now it's listed as the starter at left tackle on the depth chart. What's kind of the situation there?
Injury. So that's another position where injury is kind of taking its toll.
And then Hunter Wiggins is listed as the backup buck. What's also the situation there?
Same. Injuries are causing depth changes.
And then, been meaning to ask you too, in terms of just, we talked to Devin a little bit about it, but in terms of coach comms, the sideline to helmet communications on the offense and defense, how has that been for the first 2 games?
Gosh, I don't think there's much difference at all defensively. Again, even if the middle linebacker or the safety, whomever the defensive coach is talking to, gets the signal, everyone else still has to get the signal. And based on crowd size and noise, unless you're huddling defensively, which no one does in college football, either that player has to signal to everyone else what to do, or the signal still has to come from the sideline. So that hasn't changed much. Offensively, significantly different and much improved, and I think has made the game better.
Anybody else?
Along the same lines, what about the tablets and what they have meant?
Yeah, feedback in real time. And so even though you have the information, it doesn't always mean that you can correct it and have it applied as fast as possible, but it takes so much of the unknown out of what happened on that play and waiting till halftime or trying to communicate. We know in between series exactly what happened on each play the previous series. We're able to share that information with our players, have them get the correct information, make the adjustments. The task then is for them to apply the adjustments and do it consistently. But really helpful, and wish we would have done it a long time ago.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thanks, Coach.